Hi, my name's Richard Beatty and this is the Cre8ors Podcast, edition episode number 1. So, first of all, I want to explain to you why I created the Cre8ors Podcast. Obviously, I'm a creator, I'm a tattoo artist, and I'm always creating different things, but I meet a lot of people and work with a lot of people that are creative people, and that goes everybody from businesses to scientists to craftspeople to artists. And I wanted to create something that we could showcase these creators in a way that helps them put out their business and what they do, and hopefully inspire other people to do the same as well. So we're in funny times at the minute. It's the 2nd of November today, and in the UK, and Boris has just announced that we're going to be going into another lockdown. So it was difficult for everybody going into the last lockdown, and nobody really knew what was going on and what to do. So it was a struggle, and so part of this is to help support people through this time. Hopefully, give people ideas as to what they could maybe do, because there's a lot of people that have lost their jobs, and a lot of people struggling. So through this, if we can create some inspiration for other people who have maybe lost their jobs to go out and start their own business, or while you've got like time on lockdown to fill that time in and do something creative. So that's the whole idea behind the podcast anyway. And I'm going to be bringing in a lot of my friends that have done what I think's absolutely amazing projects or creations or businesses, or just absolutely fantastic characters. Also some of my clients as well. It'd be great if we can get some of the conversations that we have while I'm tattooing, if we can get those out to people to listen to, because there's a lot of humour and there's a lot of wow stories, and I certainly enjoy the conversations anyway. So I think it would be good to be able to let you guys hear some of them as well. So getting into things, before I interview anybody, I think it's best if I explain a bit about myself, why I'm doing this, and how I came to be doing this. So I'm going to start when I was a kid. I was born in 1973, and I was a twin. I've got a twin brother. I'm 2 minutes older, so that means that I've been able to pull rank all my life. And my parents were, my dad was a plumber, and my mum worked for the electricity board. She also had a part-time job on a radio station, a country and western radio show. So when I was a kid, like, I was always drawing things, and my earliest memories of my art is at 4 years old, and that's because I did a 3-dimensional drawing of a car, which to now, even like me as a professional artist, I'm a tattooist, and so to drawing in 3D when you're 4 years old is pretty young. And I can remember my parents always going on about it. Richard drew a 3-dimensional car, and I didn't really think anything of it at the time, but looking back, it's definitely something that was the starting signs of my art. So time went on, and obviously I was like constantly drawing cars. That was my biggest passion, anything with an engine in, really. And when I was 8, I got my first motorbike, and I'd been pestering my dad for a motorbike, and he bought us this motorbike that didn't work. So thinking that it was going to, if it obviously didn't work, I wouldn't be riding about falling off it. So I spent a year taking this thing to bits and trying to get it to work, and I had it all in bits, and eventually I put it back together, and there was only a few bolts left over, and it still didn't work. And then one of my friends came around one day and he says, "Have you tried putting a battery on it?" And I was like, "Well, it's a motocross bike. They don't have batteries." And he says, "Yeah, but this is a really old motocross bike. He says, try a battery on it." And we put a battery on and it started first time. So that was me riding about on that thing for a couple of years to come. But because of my interest in motorbikes, it wasn't long before I was, and art, it wasn't long before I was doing paint jobs on motorbikes. So I actually did my first custom paint job on a motorbike when I was 8. And when I was 8, I also stated to my parents and my teachers that I wanted to be a car designer. So obviously I had a huge passion for cars. And when I, like, again, like saying something like that when you're 8, I suppose other kids might say, "I want to be a fireman," or a farmer, or digger driver or whatever. But I was saying that I wanted to be a car designer, and it's something that I never really gave up that idea. But the teacher says, "Okay, Richard, sticking at school. You need to get a good education and get good qualifications, and then you'll be able to go to college, and eventually you'll maybe be able to go and work for a car company being a car designer." So that's how the school laid that out for us. So I was always the sort of kid that hung about with all the kids. I was quite feral with being out on my motorbike all the time, and didn't spend much time at home and hanging about with, probably what most parents would have thought the wrong crowd. And so by the time I was 11, some of my older friends had tattoos, and I was like, "You got pictures on you? How did that happen?" And like, I didn't know anything about tattooing at the time. So one of the lads says, "Well, you can get a pin, they're like sewing pins, and put a bit of thread through the hole, and then wrap it around the pin down to the tip, and leave just a little bit hanging out. And you dip that in the ink, and then you stab that into the skin, and you can make a tattoo like that." So there you go, everybody. There's how you do tattoos on yourself. So first of all, I nicked some Indian ink from school, and had to go like doing dots on myself and stuff. And I tried with different stuff, poster paint and whatnot. And then once I realised the process works, and like, you can definitely leave a mark on the skin by poking ink into it. I started tattooing my friends. So like, they were all like, "Oh, I want it." Well, I don't know whether they were, "I want a tattoo," or I was, "Do you want a tattoo?" But either way, I started tattooing my friends. And at the time we were listening to a lot of rockabilly music and King Kurt and stuff like that. And there was a band called the Cre8ors, and the logo was this like really cool cat. So I was pretty good at drawing it. So because I wasn't making stencils or anything before, I was just drawing it straight onto skin. So I was drawing these cats onto the skin with a biro, and then tattooing them. So half the class ended up with this cat. But I realised that it was really slow, and it wasn't easy to do a straight line when you're poking away with dots, sort of thing. So I wanted to make it faster. So I was 12 by this time, and I obviously being mechanically minded with the motorbikes and all that sort of stuff. I decided to make a tattoo machine. Now, I didn't know what a tattoo machine was. I didn't know that they actually existed, but I knew that I needed to make the needle go faster and be more controllable. So I pinched a Braun independent electric razor off my dad, like a battery-powered razor, and took it to bits and rigged up the needle so that the shaft that normally drove the blade now drove the needle, and wired it up to a 12-volt motorbike battery. And yeah, I mean, it was a tattoo machine. It wasn't like a modern how a tattoo machine should be, but it certainly worked. So I started on some bigger tattoos because I was able to do bigger tattoos. And obviously, like, you know, my mates at school were all a similar age as well. So it wasn't long before parents had complained to teachers, and then it got back to the headmaster, and then I got called into school and a severe bollocking and kicked out of school for tattooing when I was 12. So that was sort of the end of me first tattooing career. I thought I'd better leave it after that, you know. There was people's parents taking them to the doctors, and they were having to go to hospital and getting these tattoos removed by acid. Yeah, that's how they used to remove tattoos. So these kids ended up with scars instead of tattoos. The tattoos were better than the scars, but hey, it is what it is. So I wouldn't recommend that to anybody, by the way. You know, it's definitely not the way to get into tattooing. It's just the way that it happened for me. There was nobody telling me to do anything right, and there was nobody stopping me doing anything wrong really either. So, but yeah, I certainly wouldn't recommend it. But as you can see, I was kind of like the black sheep of the family. At the same time, my brother, he was like school prefect, and you know, top marks in all his tests and stuff, and I was just busy sort of causing chaos and riding motorbikes and tattooing people and setting fire to things. When I was a kid, I used to have a recurring dream that I was going to grow up to be an arsonist, because I just loved burning stuff so much. So turned out that I just really like flames, but I haven't burnt any big buildings down or anything. So yeah, so as time went on, obviously I was still into my motorbikes and that, and I'd been building a scooter engine in my bedroom, which didn't really look like a bedroom anymore. You know, it was I'd painted murals all over the walls, and but yeah, I was building this engine in my bedroom, and then I decided that I would paint the motorbike in my bedroom. My mum was out at work, and so carted this motorbike frame upstairs into my bedroom, turned my bedroom into a spray booth, and started painting this motorbike. The house was absolutely stinking of paint, and time was knocking on, and I'm thinking, oh God, my mum's going to be back. So I got it finished and got it back together. Now I don't know why I put it together. That wasn't the best of idea, because now I had to get it down the stairs. So yeah, I'm here coming down the stairs with this motorbike, and I've got my foot on the back brake. So as I'm sliding it down the stairs, it was actually ripping the carpet off of each step behind us. And I'm about halfway down the stairs, and my mum walked in the front door, and obviously caught red-handed again. The house was stinking of paint, and I'd pulled the carpet off the stairs. You can imagine her face. It was yeah, and not long after that, I had an accidental fire in my bedroom. I'd been playing with candles, and fell asleep, caused a bit of a fire, and my room was badly damaged. And that was when I really started going to town with the murals. Luckily, I didn't die. I think my dog saved my life, to be honest with you. So when the room was repaired, they asked us what colour I wanted. I just says painted grey, like a light grey, and they didn't understand why, but I just wanted to use that as a base for painting murals on. So after that, I just painted a load of murals on it, and then my friends started asking us to paint murals on their walls, and then their parents started asking us to paint murals, and then a lady who worked at the hospital asked us to paint the children's ward on the infirmary, and that was my first sort of paying job when I was 14, painting murals. And since then, I've got paid for my art ever since. So you could say that I've been a professional artist since I was 14. So I failed school. I got a D in art. I got a G in physics, and that was all I got, because I didn't go to any of the other exams. And I was destined to fail. School says I was destined to fail. My parents said I was destined to fail. My brother said I was destined to fail. Everybody said I was destined to fail. But as you can probably work out, I didn't really listen to anything that anybody said to me. I didn't like school. School didn't like me. So the feeling was mutual. And still to this day, I do not see any purpose that school served me at all. My art teacher told us that I would never make any money at art. And yeah, it was just I went through school sort of, and I guess I kind of enjoyed it really, but just for the DOS, not the education side of it. Maybe I should have got a bit more out of the education. I don't know, but I don't think I've ever needed it, And I've still to this day, I'm not a big fan of school, the education system, and what it doesn't do for people. So when I left school, I went through a few random jobs. My dad got us a job in a tyre garage, and then I went on to doing window sales. I got married when I was 19. Met her when I was on the window sale job, and so I got married quite early, and obviously then babies start coming along, and so at this point now I'm needing to keep myself busy to support my family. So I was working on I ended up with a job working on the roads. It's quite well paid, but a lot of hard work. Actually destroyed my back doing that. So, but I'd still been drawing cars, all the time in my spare time. That was still my hobby, drawing cars. So by the time I was 19, I'd designed a car, and I really wanted to build it. So I bought a welder, and I bought an old Mark 1 Astra, and I started welding, practicing welding on this old car out the front of my house. And one day I was walking home from work, and I was going past a petrol station, and there was a guy in the petrol station with a buggy on a trailer, and he was washing this buggy, and I looked at it and I thought, that looks like the chassis that I've designed for my car. So I went over and had a look at it, and the guy comes out the station and got talking to him, and this thing had 2 engines in it, like 2 motorbike engines, and my head was blown. I was like, wow, this is what I want to do, I want to build something like this. And he says, well, come down to the workshop and have a look around there. And that, I actually ended up mechanicking for the guy, and so I was going to the meetings, and I was looking after the car while he was racing, and I was filling it up and doing the tyre pressure and cleaning off all the mud. It was an autograss car, class 10 autograss car, so it's like in a unlimited section, hence it being allowed to have 2 engines. It actually had the same power to weight ratio as a Formula 1 car. So there was a day we were at a race meeting, and I don't know whether he was just feeling too lazy or he'd got too fat, but either way, he couldn't get in the car, and he says to me, why don't you drive it? So I was like, really? I'd never driven this car before. So the first time I drove the car, the buggy, I drove it off the trailer into the pits, onto the start line, and now I'm sitting in a 300 brake horsepower buggy that is definitely the fastest car on the start line. And my strategy was to wait for everybody else to go, and then I would follow them into the corner, because like I said, I'd never driven this car before. So I let everybody, the rope goes down and everybody shoots off, and then I nailed it, and man, this thing accelerated faster than anything I'd ever been in. It felt like the back was trying to push its way through the front. It was just an unbelievable feeling, and I actually got to the first corner before everybody else, overshot and just about crashed it, span. But I managed to keep up with them, and over the space of the day, I think I won 2 races. So, Yeah, that was that was my first sort of. That it was a really inspirational moment because I was like, I have got to get me one of these, and I want one on the road as well. I want something like this on the road. It's just it has to be. Um, so I was at this point now. I was very busy. I actually started working for the guy who owned the car, and I was driving a white van around England and Scotland delivering parcels for him, and his base where he had the van and the buggy, there was it was like a haulage yard, and over the space of a week, I would load 20 tons of whey powder into a big tanker. It was, I don't know why they needed it in the tanker. It was in bags on pallets, and they needed it loose into a tanker. So I was lifting it up with the forklift truck onto the top of the tanker, and I had to slash all the bags open and drop all these bags into the truck, all the powder into the truck. So I was working on the van through the day. On a night, I was loading the van up again and then doing a load of the powder, and I'd do like 20 tons of that a week. And on a weekend, I was working 2 13-hour security shifts on the same haulage yard. So I was there a lot, and I was working a lot. It did not do my relationship much good, but yeah, we ended up getting divorced, and it was around that time that I got the garage. Obviously, it got cold outside, and I didn't have a lot of time to do the welding on the Mark 1 Astra and that. So we went half on a garage to store the buggy in, and so that I could work on my car. And that was really the start of the Bat Cave. So by this time I was 21. It was about 1996, and that's when I opened Bat Cars. So I'd been welding my car up, and people had been coming in, my friends and that, saying the car had failed its MOT, and can you weld it up and that. So I was kind of getting paid to weld by this point, and obviously I was really busy with the 3 jobs and doing all this as well. So that was pretty much my life at this point. Obviously I was divorced by this time, and all sorts of chaos going on there. But it got to the point where I was sick of fixing people's cars. So I says, right, I'm sick of this. I want to do what I want to do to your cars, instead of just fixing repairs. So the first car that came in after I'd said that was a Vauxhall Nova, and he'd had a front end smash. He needed a new front bumper and stuff. And I says, right, I want to do what I want to your car, and you're going to have to pay us. And he actually agreed. So I spent about, now I could say 3 months on here, but like, I don't know how long it was. It was probably a bit longer, to be fair, more like 6. But anyway, I spent quite a long time on this car, building this car. And when it rolled out the garage, it actually got I think it was a 5 or 7 page feature in Total Vauxhall magazine. Obviously I'd done like a full body kit on it and a fancy paint job and stuff, and everything was like custom made. So yeah, that was my first magazine feature, and it sort of just snowballed from there, really. More cars, obviously the custom stuff, and I really started to get a reputation for it. So yeah, I was obviously there was a lot going on at the garage, and a lot of jobs going through the garage, and there was one significant one that'll always stick in my memory. I painted a car for a guy, and it was a colour change. He had a Ford Escort, and he wanted it was red, and he wanted it painted blue. And so as I was working on his car, he was turning up at the garage, and he had this big dog. It was a Rottweiler, and it wasn't a standard issue Rottweiler. I think he'd been giving it steroids or something. The fucking thing was horrible. And I like dogs, but this was not a nice dog. And so one day he tied it up outside the garage, and he nipped into town, and this dog dragged the big metal cage that it was tied to over to the door of the garage, and it was like it was flipping just an absolute savage thing. And we couldn't get out the garage, so that was me stuck in the garage for like 3 hours. So when he came back, I told him to never bring the dog to the garage again. Anyway, I painted his car, and off he goes, and didn't see him for about a year, and then he pulls up outside the garage and gets out his friend's car out the passenger seat, and he gets out and he hands us this letter. And I says to him, "What's this? It's not my birthday." And he says, "Just read it." So I opens this letter and I reads it, and it basically said, he'd put his name and address at the top on the right hand side like you do, and it said, "Dear Richard, when you painted my car over a year ago, I think you overcharged me by £100. I want my £100 back by Thursday, or I am going to," and this was on the Monday, "or I am going to." And then the next 3.5 pages of A4 were what him and his dog were going to do to us. So it was a full-on death threat. I was going to be like Richard sandwiches, and it was just some like absolute bizarre, sick fantasy, really. And so I took it to the police, and I said, "What do you think of this?" And they says, "You can't do that." I says, I mean, he'd signed this at the bottom as well. They says, "You can't do that." And I said, "I'm glad you said that, because you want to see the size of this dog." And they says, "Don't worry, Mr. Beatty, you go back to work, and we'll go and sort Mr. Mark out." And so a few hours later, I get a phone call off the police, and they says, "Right, so if Mr. Mark comes anywhere near you, lock yourself in a building." And I says, "Well, I thought you were gonna go and arrest him and throw away the key." And they says, "Yeah, we've been to see him and we've had a word." I said, "What do you mean you've had a word? You said you were going to arrest him and throw away the key." They says, "Yeah, well, we've had a word and we don't think he's going to do anything." I says, "Why haven't you done anything?" And they says, "Well, it turns out Mr. Mark's a registered schizophrenic and it just wouldn't be worth the paperwork." So I was like, right, so what am I supposed to do? And they says, "If it comes anywhere near you, lock yourself in a building." I says, "Right, I'm a business, my doors are open, I'm underneath the car fixing an exhaust, and Mr. Mark walks in with his dog and his dog's chewing my leg off. Is that round about the time you'd like me to phone you?" Obviously, I wasn't as calm as what I am now when I'm telling this story, but yeah, I was pretty gobsmacked. Yeah, so it kind of left us. It was a horrible situation, because obviously I was working late at the garage and I was there by myself, and the police were not prepared to do anything about this official death threat, and yeah, so it left me with quite a lot of stress and trauma. Nothing actually happened, but yeah, it certainly wasn't an experience that you'd expect to have, like, through just trying to do your job, you know. But yeah, that was certainly one of the jobs that stood out. And another one was a Mitsubishi FTO. This was in around about 2000 now, and so it was quite a significant job, this, because it changed everything about back cars, really. So I'd taken out my first advert. You know, as a business, as you grow in and you think, right, I need to do some advertising, and so I'd taken out my first advert in the Thomson local directory, and someone in Manchester, well, actually Warrington, had seen this ad and got in touch with us. So he'd been doing the car shows. He had an electronics company, and this guy's actually going to be coming on the podcast as well. I'll keep that one for later though, but yeah, it'll be a fascinating story. I won't go into this bit too much, really, but because we'll be going over it again. But he contacted me because he seen that, like, obviously I was out there looking for work, and he needed a vehicle to represent his business properly at the car shows that he was going to. So I ended up we done a deal. Now, this is an unusual deal as far as a paint job on a car's concerned. I could see what he could do for me, and he could see what I could do for him. So we made an agreement that I would paint his car, turn it into a full custom show car, and I wouldn't charge him. The deal was that I got to go with that car to every show that it went to, and he would, you know, look after us while I was there, hotel and all that sort of stuff. entry into the show and stuff like that. So although I didn't get paid for it, and it was an incredibly expensive paint job that I put on it, it opened the door to higher level car shows for me. And the first time that car debuted was at Max Power at the Excel Centre in London. So from there, we went all over the country with it. Every weekend we were at shows with it, from Santa Pod to the NEC in Birmingham and even into Europe. So although a lot of people might say, you shouldn't be doing this stuff for free, what that car did was it got me way more work than the value of that car ever was, and it got me to so many shows and promoted my business to such a level that I couldn't have achieved in that time by myself. So things were really flying, and it wasn't long after that what happened was I actually had to move my garage because the yard that it was in was getting sold to build houses, and they gave us a month to move. So obviously a month to find a premises and move was nigh on impossible, but we managed to find an old factory out in the countryside that was available, and we took that. It seemed like a great idea at the time, but because it was so remote, there was let's just say a local little baghead that was watching us come and go as we came and went to left work, and it started like a series of small robberies that got bigger and bigger until fourth robbery later he absolutely cleaned us out. So it was torture. We were actually staying in the garage overnight to try and protect the stuff. It was because it was so remote. We couldn't really defend it. The alarms. It was alarmed and everything. But we ended up fourth robbery. He absolutely cleaned us out, and we were shut down for 6 months. We got a new premises on a secure site, and then obviously I felt like paranoid, so we went to a gated industrial estate. Started getting back on my feet again, and because of my involvement with all the car shows and everything, it seemed inevitable that I was gonna, that I should organise my own car show, and we did that first in conjunction with someone out at Workington at the Speedway track, and then again same team for Cruise Fest Northwest in 2006. So that show was actually televised. From a business point of view, again, it seemed like a fantastic idea, promotion for the garage and all that, and obviously a cash flowing project, but it didn't work out that way. The turnout for the show was really, really bad because through the process of the show, we didn't realise that we'd booked it on the first day of the World Cup starting, because I don't have anything to do with football, so I didn't even know the World Cup was on. So, and then just to make matters worse, they announced that England was playing on the first day of the World Cup. So, that caused the turnouts to be an absolute flop, and we lost a fortune on that show. So, even when things can look like a fantastic idea 9 times out of 10, well, not 9 times out of 10, but a lot of the time things don't work out right, and it can be, you can put all the effort into something in the world, but it doesn't mean that it's gonna necessarily work. There's other factors that can come into it. So, but as far as the competitive side we're going, we were doing well on that side. I'd by this point I'd done paintwork on 2 cars that had won Best in Britain, things were really rocking. So the show flopped anyway, and then the year after, in 2007, my dad died from stomach cancer, and then the recession came in 2008. So obviously the kind of work that I was doing, it was very excessive and luxurious, and certainly unnecessary. So my customers really started to disappear at that point, and not be able to pay us, which eventually caused me not to be able to pay my bills. And in 2008, I ended up going bankrupt with back cars, and lost everything through that. It was a really stressful time, and obviously with my dad dying and that as well, that caused depression and anxiety, and it was probably the lowest point of my life, really. So I was having to go to the doctors to, for happy pills and shit, and they were giving us beta blockers to stop this pain in my chest. What they were saying was anxiety, and so because I was having to go to the doctors, I thought, well, that guy with the dog, he had this thing that could only be described as really a loony license. He seemed to have a get out of jail free card, because he was able to threaten to murder me and get away with it. And I'd always thought, that's a get out of jail free card, that. So I thought, seeing as I'm having to go to the doctors, I'm going to wind them up and see if I can get my loony license. So, I spent quite a bit of time and a bit of research, learning about schizophrenia and stuff. And I realised that it was so close to being a creative person. So, all right, I'm gonna see how far I can push this. So I started telling the doctor that this was going on and that was going on, and eventually he, after quite some time, he decided to let us see a psychiatrist. And it took 3 sessions at the psychiatrist before they wrote us off with several types of schizotypal disorders. So I was absolutely buzzing because I got my loony license. And on top of that, I'd proved the difference between being crazy and creative. The difference is that being creative, you are productive and you create things. Being crazy, you're destructive and you destroy things. But it's exactly the same thing. So, for instance, when I'm thinking about a tattoo design, or at the time when I was thinking about a design for a car, I can see it in my mind as real as it could be in reality, So if you tell that to a psychiatrist, they will say you're having visual hallucinations, and that's schizophrenia. An example as a musician, if you're writing a song and you've got a song in your head and you can hear the music and you can hear the words, it doesn't exist in reality, but it only exists in your head. If you tell that to a psychiatrist, they will say you are having audible hallucinations. They will write you off as schizophrenic, and they will try and force their happy pills on you. So, well, in fact, antipsychotics. So when eventually they did actually write us off with the several types of schizotypal disorders. So around the same time, a friend had asked us to design a tattoo for him, and obviously I wasn't working at the time and I had no better to do, so I designed this tattoo for him. And then he says, will you do it? And I says, well, I haven't got tattoo equipment. And he says, well, look, you can buy it on eBay. So I says, well, you buy it and I'll do your tattoo. So he did, and I did. And that tattoo, it's well over a decade old, about 15 years now, still looks great today. So after I'd done his tattoo, I was left with this tattoo machine, and he says, well, what am I going to do with this? And he says, well, you can keep it. I don't need it. So now I was left with a tattoo machine. So the inevitable thing was I started tattooing my mates again. It wasn't long before I was, obviously it was a lot better with a real tattoo machine, and it wasn't long before I was pretty flat out tattooing. Now, I didn't know any rules and regulations about how you go about tattooing. I just did everything as good as I could, as far as hygiene and everything like that's concerned. And obviously, like running a business before, I took things pretty professionally, So so I'm here running about doing tattoos in people's kitchen and that, and I didn't even know what scratcher was at the time, but apparently I was a scratcher. So it got to a point where I was really busy with it, and it was just getting silly. So my friend was opening a shop, a tattoo shop. So I went to work for him, and I was tattooing there for maybe 6 months or something. Um, Obviously, the doctors around this time had said I was schizophrenic, and I went to see my friends Doug and Jane, who were they do NLP, which is neuro linguistic programming. So they got inside my head, and like 1 2 hour session of NLP cured what 2 years of medication didn't touch. Like, because I was still getting the pains in my chest and everything, and I didn't feel right, and the pills weren't working. And the doctors were saying that I needed to take stronger tablets, and I didn't want to take any of them. So I went to see my friends, Doug and Jane, and I had a 2 hour session with them, and that 2 hour session cured what 2 years of doctors didn't touch. So the comparison of alternative medicine, alternative mind medicine, alternative ways of looking at things compared to the normal doctor's route, the results sort of speak for themselves. Now, I wouldn't say that that it cured us of being crazy. I'm still that same person, but I don't have pains in my chest, and I don't have the same stress and anxiety and depression and all that sort of stuff that I had. So it definitely made a big difference. So it wasn't long after this that I had quite an experience in my kitchen. I was thinking to myself, yeah, like all the things that I'd been through, and like, because I was starting to get better now, I was starting to feel a bit brighter and that after going through the NLP and that, and I was, starting to come out of all that kind of dark time. And I was in the kitchen and I thought, you know what, Richard, you're beating yourself up for all this shit that went wrong, and with the bankruptcy and everything like that, and obviously, just everything that happened related to that, and my dad dying as well, and you beat yourself up for everything that went wrong, but you haven't even stopped and give yourself any credit for the things that went right. So at this point, I thought, hang on a minute. When you were 8, you said you wanted to be a car designer, and by the time you did it, now I wasn't working for Ford like I thought I was gonna be. So I hadn't realised it, but I had actually achieved my childhood dream. And at that point, I was 28 years old. So I was like in the kitchen, I'm thinking, how the fucking hell did I do that? Like, really? I was talking to the wall. I was like, how the fuck did I do that? Because everybody said that I was going to fail. Everybody said that I wouldn't get to do that, So, my head was blown with that. And I just wanted to know how. So this is where things really start to get a bit special, really, because the next day, my friend came round and knocks at the door and answers the door, and he passes us a DVD. And I says, "What's this?" And he says, "It's the film that goes with the book that Doug and Jane gave you." My friends that do the NLP. Obviously, I hadn't read the book. He says, "You haven't read the book, so you might watch the DVD." So he hands us this DVD, and goes and sticks it on. Now, the DVD was a film called The Secret, and in there was a quote. It's about the law of attraction, and it's about how your mind your thoughts create your things. And in there was a quote by Buddha that says, "All we are is a result of what we have thought." So when I heard that, a big penny dropped, because I realised that it was my thoughts that had created everything up to now. And that's how I became a car designer. Okay, so all we are is a result of what we have thought. So let's just take a minute to analyze that a bit, because it's very, very significant. So if all we are is a result of what we have thought, then all we are now is the result of the thoughts that we had in the past and the actions that we took based on those thoughts. So that must also mean, and when you analyze that and look at your life and you think about what you've got in your life and the fact that it's the result of the thoughts that you had in the past and the actions that you took based on them, you're going to see that everything in your life comes back to that. You're not going to escape it. It's the good things, it's the bad things. If you're fat, then it's because you've eaten a load of pies. If you're a success, it means you've worked hard and you've not given up that vision. So if you really are what you thought. If you're happy, it's because you've done things that make you happy. If you're not happy, for instance, when I was depressed, guess what? It was because I was thinking about things that wasn't making us happy. I was thinking about everything I'd lost. I'd thinking about my dad dying and all that, and that doesn't make you happy. So inevitably, your thoughts create your feelings. If you didn't have thoughts, you wouldn't have feelings, and your feelings are kind of what you act on. So when you have a thought and it gets to a point where you're getting excited about it, then you're gonna do something about it. So everything we are now is a result of the thoughts that we had in the past and the actions that we took based on them. So it must be also true that everything that we're going to be in the future is a result of the thoughts that we're having now. So the realization of this for me, for a start, I was like, right, well, I can totally see how I created becoming a car designer. But also think about this. It was only 12 hours before this moment of realizing this that I was stood in the kitchen saying, how the fuck did I do that? The very next day, the answer was given to us in the form of The Secret. So I really started to embrace the law of attraction, and I realized it was how I'd done everything that I'd done up to that point, the good and the bad. And I realized if I knew this system in this way, then I could recreate my life from that point. And that's what I started doing. So The Secret says to make a list and things that you want, and set yourself goals and write things down in a certain way. And so I did that. And the next 7 days was absolutely unbelievable. It's quite a story, and something that I think I'll save for a separate episode, really, because we will be going into episodes that are specifically about the law of attraction. So, but this is a huge part of what I want to get across to people. What you're thinking and the process of creation is this. You've got to have an idea. You've got to get excited about that. You've got to fall in love with that idea. And then you've got to act on it. You've got to make a plan on how you're going to get it. And then you act on that plan. And the end result is a creation. And so therefore, you can create whatever you want. You just got to think it and plan it and go ahead and do it. There's nothing else stopping anybody from doing anything. So yeah, I started to use a lot of attraction, and obviously things were things went really well. So the tattoo studio that I was working in, that came to an end because the guy who owned it was an absolute awful tattooist, and still is. And so at this point, I decided to open my own shop, and a guy had been coming in asking to be my apprentice, and I said I didn't need an apprentice. So when this shop shut, he come to us and he says, "So what are you going to do now?" And I says, "Well, I'm going to open my own shop." And he says, "Well, can I be your apprentice now?" And we decided to team up, and rather than just having him as my apprentice, I took him on as my business partner, and we set up the shop together, because obviously you can't do everything yourself. So it worked out really well. So in 2010 into 2011, we opened Immortal Art Studio in Carlisle. And so this was all part of what I'd written down on my list, and using the law of attraction and the secret to help create all this stuff. And my apprentice Rob, he was, been trained in this as well, and we intentionally used the law of attraction to create his career, almost in a boy band sort of way, we set out. It was a fully planned exercise. It wasn't just, I'm going to teach you how to tattoo. It was a fully planned exercise using the law of attraction. So the first 6 months of the shop, we were absolutely smashing it. We'd broken all the cash flow forecasts, and the shop was doing really well, and my whole list that I'd wrote was looking very positive, and it was going really well. And so I'd started to pass this information on to my clients, because I was getting results from it, and it was the sort of thing that you just can't not talk about. So I was tattooing a lady called Jackie, and I'm going to tell you Jackie's story because it's absolutely fascinating. She was deputy headmistress at a secondary school. She was coming up to retirement, and she was getting married again at some point soon. And I says to her, have I told you about this? And she says, no, you've not told us. So I says, right. I says, go away, watch this film, do what it says on the tin. And there's a bit in it where it says to write what you want down. So stop the film and write it down. And so she got to the bit where it says, what do you want in life? And she thought, bloody hell, I don't know. Now, you would think a woman that in this position knew what she wanted, but at this point she realised that she absolutely didn't. And she thought, right, well, I'm getting married again, coming up to retirement. If I could clear all my debts, then I could live happily ever after. So she thought, right, well, it says be specific, so I need to work out what my debts are. So she worked it out, and it came to 32 grand. And she thought, fucking hell, that's a lot of money, but Richard says this works, and what have I got to lose? So she then wrote down, I am so happy and grateful. Gratitude is a massive thing, by the way. I am so happy and grateful now that I have received £32,000 from an unexpected source within the next 30 days. Every morning she read it out to herself, and it became part of her, morning ritual and stuff. And she started feeling the feelings of having £32,000, even though she didn't have £32,000. So a few weeks into it, 3 weeks into it, her fiance came home from work, and he says, right, I've been to the bank today, and they've doing one of these claims for PPI, and they owed us some money, and they found this insurance policy that was attached to the account that I hadn't filled in the paperwork. So I filled in the paperwork for that, and I've got this money, and I want to give you half of it. And she says, I don't want half of your money. I'll take half of your money when we get married, thank you. And he says, no, I really want you to have it. She says, I don't want it. So another week went by, and he'd asked her several times, and she kept on knocking him back. So he comes home from work, and he says, right, I've been to the bank, I've got that money out of the bank, I've put it in the cupboard in the bedroom. If you don't go and get it, take it, spend it on yourself, do something for yourself. I don't care what you're going to do, but if you don't spend it on yourself, I'm going to take it in the garden, I'm going to burn it. So she went to the cupboard saying, yeah, of course you're going to burn 500 quid. And she opened the cupboard, and there was £32,000 in a bag. So she was obviously blown away, and he didn't know what had happened. bearing in mind that we're now like 4 to 5 weeks into we're writing this down, so around about 30 days. So this is within the time limit that she put in her statement. So a couple of days later they were out having a meal, celebrating. And so Jackie says to him, she says, right, Richard got us to do this thing. And I did it. And I asked for 32 grand. And then in 30 days. And then you gave me 32 grand in 30 days. She says, my head's absolutely blown. And he jumped up and started jumping around the restaurant going, that was it. And she says, what? And he says, well, I didn't want to give you that money. He says, but I had this overwhelming urge to give you the money and I didn't know why. He says, I knew you'd take half my money when we get married. He says, but I just felt like I had to give you the money. And so that was my first sort of experience in passing this information on and seeing someone run with it, and actually do something with it and get such an accurate result and nail the timing and everything. It was absolutely amazing. To follow that story up, a few months later, she came and gave us a wedding invitation to the shop. And I says to her, Jackie, I says, like, I've been telling people your story. I says, it's absolutely amazing. Have you done anything else with it? And she says, no, I've been too busy. She says, mind you, I did get made up to headmistress and I have retired now. And she says, oh, there was one thing. She says, I thought I'd paid all the bills for the wedding. And then this bill came in that I didn't realise it was coming, and it was for £2,465. So she thought, right, sod it, I'm just going to use that thing that Richard showed us. So she wrote down, I am so happy and grateful now that I have received £2,465 from an unexpected source within the next 7 days. The next day, she got a tax rebate for £2,465. Now, you can call bullshit on that story if you want. It's so amazing that, like, it's almost, even for me, unbelievable. But it's true, and I've got no reason to believe that she would be lying about it. She was amazed about it as I was, and so this law of attraction thing, if you get the hang of it and if you do it right and if your intention's right behind it, it really does work. But it doesn't stop the bad things happening as well. It just means that you're able to deal with them a little bit better, I think. But around this time, I actually got an injury in my hand from tattooing. It was because the machines that I was using were badly designed, and a lot of them still are, and they literally cause hand strains. So the doctor said I had to stop tattooing, and I says, I can't stop tattooing. I've just opened a business. I'm the only tattooist in it. So what I did was, instead of stopping tattooing, I actually made a brace for me thumb, which was the tendon in my thumb that was knackered. So I made a brace for my thumb to stop it bending into the position that was hurting. And I started designing a tattoo machine that would cancel out the problem of the hand strain. With my engineering background and the ability to make almost anything from a custom fabrication point of view, I just thought, sod it, I'm going to make a tattoo machine that sorts this problem out. I probably spent about a year working on it, but eventually I had a prototype that was usable. Went through the prototyping process, and so many prototypes literally got used for 5 seconds and then threw in the bin, and the alterations and tweaks, and sometimes you make it worse than what it was. Sometimes you make an improvement. So there was a lot of learning, and eventually, I had something that was really, really good, and started using it. My hand started to improve. The problem disappeared. And I realised that I'd built something that was really, really good, so I decided to actually go into manufacture with it and started selling the Killer Bee tattoo machines, which we ended up naming it. I still sell them to this day. I sell them all over the world, and it's been a huge long-term project for us. So the studio was popping, and we were producing machines now, and we'd got more artists in, and we ended up needing a bigger studio. So we moved to a bigger studio around the corner, and with space to grow into. And one of the things that we'd set out with Rob was to be one of the most famous tattooists in the country, and part of the plan was to obviously promote the business off the back of his social media presence, which was literally just starting. Like that was when Facebook and stuff started to really kick off. So it was really at the start of the social media thing. So by the time we'd moved to the new shop, Rob actually had 500,000 followers on Facebook. So again, another goal that we'd set that I think we absolutely smashed it, But the business relationship had sort of had a lot of strains as well. And in 2005, we ended up splitting up the business partnership, and he went on and opened up his own studio, and I carried on with Immortal and the Killer Bees. So that was in 2005. Now, in amongst all this, I'd got married again, and when the split up of Immortal happened, I ended up getting divorced again, around the same time. So, it's funny how you get good things happening, and then you get to see your bad stuff happen as well. So, I've come to realise that your quality of life really isn't. It's more about like how good you get at sorting out problems. The better you get at sorting out problems and getting over them, and getting on to the next good thing, the quality of your life improves. Because if you're not good at sorting out problems, then they're just with you all the time. So so second divorce came along, and so things were a bit messy. The business was split up, and obviously I was under a lot of strain. And then I met another lovely young lady who bounced into the shop, and with a big smile on her face, and we ended up getting together, and things really started to pick up again. And eventually she came into the business and opened up a beauty section of the business called Immortal Beauty, and she started doing laser removal, and then went into laser tattoo removal, that is, and then went into the cosmetic tattooing, and a lot of like high-tech facial services, and carbon peels and all this sort of stuff. And it was a really good extra leg to the business as well. So she's been an absolutely fantastic support with us right throughout the whole thing. I think working with her, we were working together. It's good for our relationship because of the way I am, the way I work so much. She's very career driven as well. So rather than having someone at home complaining that you're not at home and getting pissed off with you because you're not sat there watching Coronation Street with them, I stopped watching telly on the day that I learnt that quote. All we are is a result of what we have thought. It was 2008 thereabouts, and I've never switched the telly on to watch it again since, because I want to master my own thoughts. I want to be in control of my own thoughts. I don't want my thoughts to be controlled by the telly. So, the fact that my partner's like that now, then it's great. We work really well together. So, we opened Immortal Beauty, and then we opened a little coffee shop in the reception as well called Turbo Espresso, and then expanded that into a juice bar. One of my daughters came in to help run that for us, and we're still busy with the tattoo machines. Went to Amsterdam, and we won the Amsterdam Tattoo Machine Builders Awards, and we won first and second with two of my machines there. So that kind of solidified how good the machines were. So at this point, we were really like smashing the conventions, the tattoo conventions with the tattoo machines. Having a stand there, and we had a lot of artists working at the conventions that we use in my machine, so we went there to support them, and obviously marketing and put ourselves out there. So that then formed a group of people who were using the machines that we ended up calling the Killer Bee Crew. It was like an owners club, and we actually decided to go, and I did a little tour of Northern Ireland, because we've got a lot of artists in Northern Ireland that are using the machines. So never seen much of the place, so I thought it'd make a good road trip. So we decided to go and see a bunch of artists over there. And I guess that was the start of the concept of doing something like this, really, like a podcast or something, because we recorded all these interviews that we did with the artists, and but the equipment that I used was awful, and it was done in tattoo studios, and the sound was terrible, and it wasn't really usable stuff. But it made us realise that all these people, all these tattoo artists, have got completely different stories. Every single one of them got into tattooing in a different way. That like there's no normal route into tattooing, really, it seems. So that was absolutely fascinating, and we ended up with like lots of giggly bytes worth of video and audio recording that was essentially unusable. But it's something that's always stuck in my mind, and now we're doing something like this, and there's going to be tattoo artists coming on this podcast, and some of them interviews are going to be rerun, and we'll get a good recording of them this time, and so they'll be on there as well. So obviously I've spent a lot of years being really busy, and got to the stage where I really needed to wind down a little bit, and I needed to take a break. I actually took about 4 months off. Was it last year? I don't know. I had about 4 months off last year. But I'm back working full time now, tattooing, and a lot happier in the job now that I'm not piling up as much pressure on myself. I'm not doing as many machines anymore. I don't have anywhere near as much staff anymore. I've had a lot of letdowns with staff. You pass on responsibility to them, and then they don't quite come up to scratch, sort of thing. So I've just found that, like, with certain things that are produced at a high level, like my tattoo machines, you can't have someone who's putting them together in a half-ass sort of way, and I'm much happier with me building the machines. At one point, we went from a almost zero return rate, and when I decided to let someone else build the machines, at one point the return rate, i.e. machines that weren't working correctly and getting sent back, got up to 40%. And this was machines coming back from all over the world as well. It caused huge problems, and it just made us realise that to make sure that the machines that were going out were right, I needed to do them myself. So I'm doing a lot less now, and a lot happier for it. It's a lot less stressful, and it means that I can do things like this as well. It gets us a bit more time to headspace, as well as time to be able to start something called the Cre8ors Podcast. So here we are. I've set up a little recording studio in the back of the tattoo studio, but we're about to go into lockdown again, so I'm going to have to move all this home, and the future podcasts, for now anyway, will be done from my office at home. So this is the first and the last time for now that we'll be using this studio. So we've got some interesting times ahead, and I just hope that through the podcast we can help some people to, like I say, to promote their businesses, to promote what they're doing, to get their ideas out, to get them some support, and hopefully inspire other people to maybe take this sort of path. Along the way, obviously, I've mentioned that we're going to be bringing into stuff like the law of attraction, but I really want to build in a lot of tips and tricks on like what people could and maybe should be doing to get a little bit ahead, So we're going to be bringing accountants in to give you some bookkeeping advice, and some social media marketers in to give you advice on all that. So we're going to try and cover all the bases to help support businesses, not just local businesses, but anyone really. A lot of my friends aren't even based in the UK that's going to be coming onto the podcast, but as much as possible, I want to push UK businesses and help them out. So if anybody out there feels that they are a creator, I think we're all a creator, but if anybody out there who's really feel that they've stepped up and done a little bit extra and created something special, then get in touch with us, because we would love to hear from you. And if that story is something that we can get onto this and you've got a business to promote, then we'll see if we can get that done for you. At the same time, obviously, I want to promote my businesses as well. So obviously, I think went right the way through them. There's the tattoo studio in Carlisle, Immortal Art Studio. We've got Immortal Beauty doing all the cosmetic stuff, cosmetic tattooing and tattoo laser removal. We've got the coffee shop and juice bar. And we've got a few other bits and pieces going on as well. So you'd be able to find most of that if you go to the website, immortalartstudio.com. And from there, you'll be able to get most things. If you want to have a look at the tattoo machines, it's immortalinnovations.co.uk. There will be Facebook pages and stuff set up for the podcast. We haven't done it yet, but probably by the time this is released, there will be Facebook pages as well. So check them out. Go and give them a follow. We're also going to be going on to YouTube as well, because some of these interviews are going to be quite visual. There's people going to want to show what they make and what they've created. So there will be a Cre8ors channel on YouTube as well. So you'll be able to get us all over the place. So yeah, that's where we're going with the podcast. That's what I want to deliver to you. Hopefully you've found something useful in my story, and hopefully you can see how I kind of had these ideas and I followed them and I got a result. Even not knowing what I was doing, I still got results. And so the formula's there for everybody to see. You can decipher this whole self-interview, and you can see what I've done and the results that I got from my thoughts and actions. So leading right up to this podcast even existing. So yeah, that's us for episode 1. Episode 2, I'm not too sure who we got on yet, because I need to sort it. I've got a big list of people that have all agreed to come on, and I just need to start recording those interviews as well. So I'll be doing those from home. So I'm really looking forward to getting into them. So thanks to everybody for listening. I've really enjoyed telling my story. Hope you enjoyed it too. And yeah, we'll look forward to speaking to some more people, getting their stories out, and hopefully inspiring some more people to go out and do something amazing. So thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.